Hello everybody. I wanted to make a quick video and discuss the header design for the number 496 Carbiliner for this year, the 2018 season. We did have some issues with headers last year, and we recognize it as one of the things that we definitely needed to work on. So, zoom in here a bit, and no. So, in the design criteria for the header, we come up with five different new criteria that needed to be implemented in the header design. Number one was to try to keep the exhaust gas speed below 400 surface feet per minute. At 2 1/8 inch diameter tubes that we had in before, at about 32 pounds of boost and 7,000 RPMs, we were moving the exhaust gas through the header tube fast enough to exceed that 400, and it cost us about 200 horsepower to move that gas at that speed. So going to 2 1/4 inch diameter kept that speed underneath the 400 surface feet per minute figure, and sort of helped everything. And we thought it was going to cause even more issues because they were bulkier and harder to fit, but we did manage to come up with a design that seemed to work. As you can see here. Okay, so the second design criteria is we want to try to keep the tubes semi-equal length. According to Kenny Duttweiler, this was sort of important as all the tubes need to grow and shrink at relatively the same rate, otherwise you're going to have cracking problems. And we were going to just do a simple log manifold with a nice gentle radius entry into the log, but we recognized that that was going to be a problem and probably start causing issues with cracking. So the other design criteria, number 3, we had to have good access to be able to change the spark plugs, and the spark plugs are going to be right about here and here, and to make sure that we can get a wrench in to change the spark plugs. And number 4 was we need to be able to keep the spark plug wires a good distance away from the primary tubes, more so than in a drag racing application, because the extended pulls that we do out there on the salt really make a lot of heat, end up cooking the boots in almost no time. Number 5 design criteria we needed to change was getting this header on and off easier. These were always a real pain to put on and off. And what was happening from the total distance from here to where it bolted, oops, I can't scroll. Where it bolted on the turbo here, it would grow, it would shrink, and it was always an issue trying to get the header back on and get all the bolts back in again. So now we have an expansion joint that goes right in here, and it's basically an adjustable joint. We can adjust the sort of length of this header. It won't expand and contract during the run at the joint. The joint is just more for recognizing the new condition the header is going to be in after we run the car, and to still be able to get the header back on the car. So that same design seemed to work for both sides. As you can see here, there's a little interference here, but apparently my model is not quite right because the header does clear. So after we did the first couple lay up the tubes, we realized we had clearance, and we just sort of went with it. We also changed this around a little bit and made this swoopier so that it come into the turbo without making these harsh bends. So I'll have to adjust the model again to make it more like the real life. But that's about it. Hopefully this year we won't have any more header issues, and it should be making about 200 horsepower at about the 30 pounds boost mark. So we're hoping to be running around 2,900 horsepower this year if things go well.
Okay, so after we had the model made, we were able to basically click on the geometry that created the model and get measurements. And from that, we made up little models of in paper, and we were able to print up 1-to-1 scale, and lay this on here like such. Mark it with a Sharpie marker, and then cut that piece. It works. Probably the best thing we can think of right now, do it this way. If we could cut this more accurately, right to the model, it would really speed things up and go really well. But we just have to be careful and cut the very best we can and piece it all together. Now, here are the old headers. Here's where we're coming from. So we had a 4 into 2 into 1 header system before. And of course the cylinders were chosen in such a way that there was at least 2 other events that happened, cylinder events that happened, before the other tube tried to fire into the same tube. These worked okay, but I think the new headers are going to really flow a whole lot better. Come around this side here, you can see the new header in place with the slip joint. So these are all tacked. We have ample room here for spark plug boots now. Now, a couple of the spark plugs we will need to get a wrench on the socket. Won't be able to use a ratchet, but that's okay. Not too concerned. Just pull it up like that, away from the header tubes.
Cool.
That's all.
Looks good.